And we are live. You already know who it is. My name is Mike Kyle, aka the Fantasy Vulture. I have over a decade worth of fantasy football experience, and I've continuously competed for fantasy championships over the course of the past 6 seasons. Let's make it 7 in 2020. But enough of me. I'm here for you. On today's episode of the FB Show, we are continuing our Week 2 game previews, breaking down every single Week 2 matchup of the NFL season, all through the lens of fantasy football. Up next, we are talking the Los Angeles Rams versus the Philadelphia Eagles. So if you are excited about this matchup, be sure to hit that like button down below, like an open receiver downfield Carson Wentz style, and also smash that subscribe button like a power running back up the middle so that you never miss a video from me. That includes game previews and reviews for nearly every single NFL game this season, all through the lens of fantasy football. This is a fantasy football channel. Alright, let's get moving here. Before we do, one final thing. Follow me on all social media platforms at FFVulture. And if you want, you can click this card right up here and it's going to take you to the playlist of all of my Week 2 previews. So if you missed any game or you want to check out a specific matchup, you can do so through there. Alright, let's roll. Rams versus Eagles, a 45.5 over under. The Eagles are favored by 1. I guess, but my initial reaction for this game is take the Rams easy. But again, I somehow am really good at fantasy and not so good at gambling. I don't know how that makes sense, but I digress. All right, game notes for this matchup. The Eagles' offensive line got absolutely worked by the Washington football team in Week 1. Wentz looked horrific as a result. I think he was sacked 7 times. And it was really ugly, really ugly. Lane Johnson, their offensive tackle, practiced in full this week, so that is going to help them significantly. But let's be honest here, when you're facing Aaron Donald, that's a whole nother machine. And let's see, moving over to the Rams, I thought the Rams' offense looked really smooth versus Dallas in Week 1. There were some times where it stalled a little bit, but for the most part, I thought it operated pretty smoothly and pretty swimmingly. As far as injuries go here, Miles Sanders practiced in full on Thursday, and it looks like he's 100% ready to go for this matchup on Sunday. Deshaun did not practice Thursday or Wednesday, I believe, and that was due to a coach's decision. He should be fine for you in Week 2 in this game as well, and there is no injuries to report for the Los Angeles Rams. Moving over to the start-sit questions for the week. For me, your auto starts for the Eagles are very simply Miles Sanders, and I feel like that's kind of about it. Carson Wentz, if he's your quarterback, you have to play him, right? But for me, Miles Sanders is the only must-start player in the for the Eagles. Look, Miles Sanders, you drafted him in the first round with good reason. He's expected to be the running back in this offense that sees as close to a full workload as you can possibly get with Doug Peterson. And if he is truly 100%, he's an auto start. You absolutely have to. Because this game, as I said, 45.5 over under. He's going to see the ball. He's going to be involved. And I'm really excited for what the breakout of Miles Sanders could be in 2020. For the Rams, your auto starts are Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods. That's Robert Woods, who just got a nice payday, 4 years. I think it was $63 million extension. So shout the fuck out to you, Robert Woods. And the Rams locked both of these guys up for the foreseeable future. Let's see. So going back, I'm sorry, I just lost my train of thought entirely by talking about that. So your auto starts are Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods. And it's very simply because, it's going to be a high-scoring affair. We know how reliable these two guys are for you week in and week out. Why would you not start them in a matchup like this? As I already mentioned, Wentz looked awful against pressure in Week 1. He's now facing Aaron Donald. It doesn't scare me off of Wentz entirely, but I am if this Eagles offense starts to stutter, it can be tough sledding for them in this matchup, and that really is my only big concern as far as the outlook for this game, as I feel like there's the opportunity where it turns lopsided rather quickly. How confident are you in starting Jalen Reagor? These are questions that you have to ask yourself. He saw 4 targets in Week 1, including that bomb of a 55-yard catch that he had. For me, I'm still holding off. Again, the way that I approach these first few weeks, and it's really the first 2, maybe 3 weeks of the NFL season, I'm starting my studs. Why Why are you rolling the dice? Why are you risking? Why are you trying to get cute with your lineup when you know you have studs on your roster, right? Unless you're already battling injuries at the wide receiver position, because there are a lot of them, admittedly. That might be the only reason why you would start Jalen Reagor, I think, in this matchup. If there's honestly a chance that he gets shattered by Jalen Ramsey, and that is a tough matchup in your second game in the NFL as a rookie wide receiver, nonetheless. I quietly kind of like Jared Goff this week, right? Trying to predict the games in which Jared Goff is going to play well in. It's kind of a challenge, admittedly, and it's one of the things that really scares me about Jared Goff. But this is the game where I think he can perform well. He played good enough in week 1 versus the Cowboys. Let's pull that up real quick. I want to get the box score right here. He pretty well in the sense of 275 yards, an interception, and no touchdowns. But there's always a blueprint, right? There's always going to be a blueprint for Jared Goff to put up 275 and 2, 275 and 3 with Tyler Higbee, Cooper Kupp, and Robert Woods as his receiving core, right? So the upside's always there. In a game again with a 45.5 over/under, I like the odds of Jared Goff having a really good week this week, and probably Tyler Higbee's also an auto start for you. I forgot to mention him in that list. I'm gonna make a note of that. Ty Higbee. All right, my bad. You're starting Tyler Higbee. You drafted him to be your tight end. You're probably going to start him anyway, but I just want to mention again, this is an auto start. Actually, Logan Thomas kind of cooked the Eagles defense last week in a way. Let's see. Anything else here? What are the notes here? I got the notes. I got the notes. All right. Final point that I want to talk about for this game. Are you starting Malcolm Brown, who saw 18 carries in week 1? This was a name that I kind of floated around just a little bit before the season. He's a guy that we actually have to pay attention to. Everybody from the Rams, including beat reporters, were saying that he was going to be the featured running back of this offense, and I don't know if people just didn't believe them because of the draft capital they spent on Cam Akers and Darrell Henderson 2 years ago. But Malcolm Brown was absolutely the guy. He saw the end zone twice. He was getting goal line work. He was getting 18 carries, and he looked really, really good in the process. So are you starting Malcolm Brown this week? Peyton Barber scored twice versus the Eagles last week. Barber, I think, saw, how many carries did Peyton Barber get? 16? 17 carries against the Eagles, and Barber was able to punch it in twice, getting some goal line work there. Very, very similar to what Malcolm Brown did last week versus the Cowboys. I don't think I'm rushing to start Malcolm Brown, but let's say you have James Conner and you don't like the matchup against the Broncos and you're worried about Conner coming off of the injury. I think Malcolm Brown might be a fine replacement. There are two guys that I think at the worst see the same amount of opportunity and the same amount or in the same fantasy floor this week. So I think you can probably start Malcolm Brown pretty safely in this matchup, all things considered, especially if he is going to get 18 carries, maybe catch 2 or 3 balls out of the backfield, and you're going to get guaranteed volume from him in this offense that can move the ball and is expected to be in a game where points are going to be scored. Cam Akers is another player I want to talk about. I've talked all offseason about how much I love Cam Akers, and while he did see 14 carries, which is a pretty good number for a rookie running back, right? Especially in a timeshare like this nonetheless. So Akers saw 14 carries last week. He didn't look particularly great, only 39 rushing yards. I do think it's just one of those things where it's going to take him a little bit of getting acclimated to the NFL. This Rams offensive line is not great, and if you're going up against great defenses, like the Cowboys have a pretty damn good defense, admittedly. So that's going to be a little bit of a rocky start for him this season. Also, still, being that second fiddle to a guy like Brown, it might be hard for Akers to really find his rhythm as a running back right now. I'm not comfortable playing Cam Akers. I'm more comfortable playing Malcolm Brown. But in a deeper league, if you have to start Akers, just going back to James Conner, maybe Akers is your other running back, and you have James Conner. Like, that's the decision that you have to make. I'd rather start James Conner in that matchup, or if I decide between those two. But let's say Cam Akers or name game. Cam Akers or Mark Ingram. I think that's an interesting one. I'd go Mark Ingram there. How many guys are you actually starting Cam Akers over? Or how many players are you not starting Cam Akers over? I think that's the thing. Right? Did I say that right? I think you get the point that I'm trying to say here. Yeah, I'm probably not starting Cam Akers with confidence. Like, if I absolutely have to play him, I will, because I probably don't have another option. But 14 carries like that admittedly, that is enough for him to be productive, right? So if you need to take the volume play, sometimes you got to do what you got to do, right? But again, you drafted your roster to be good. You drafted your roster in a way where you want to start your first 7 draft picks 95% of the time. And with that being said, you probably did not draft, well, maybe you drafted Cam Akers in like that 6th or 7th round territory. But as terms of right now, he's probably not a guy that you're comfortable starting on any given week, excuse me. But I think that's going to do it for my, wait, is there anything else here? Are you starting Deshaun Jackson? Probably not. I wouldn't, at least. Yeah, I'm not comfortable starting Deshaun Jackson. Alshon Jeffrey's still out with that foot injury. He hasn't practiced all season. You're starting Zach Ertz. I think that's something I should talk about too. Zach Ertz or Dallas Goddard. Do you start Dallas Goddard? Do you? Do you actually start him? I don't know. I've talked about this before. My issue with Goddard and Ertz specifically is that they're going to eat into each other's work every single game, and that just lowers what their ceilings are going to be because the other guy is going to see 5 to 8 targets and is going to haul in 70 yards, and you're going to be thinking, oh no, those should have been Ertz's yards and Ertz's targets, right? So I actually just want to see for one more week what this split's going to be. Can you start Goddard week in and week out? But for now, for me, this is still going to be Zach Ertz's team. Goddard can still be productive, but I'm not going to bank on production from the number 2 tight end. Granted, we know that they love to utilize the tight end position. I'm just not comfortable with it right away. Again, start your studs, right? All right, so now I'm actually going to wrap this video up. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed, be sure to leave a like and subscribe down below so that you never miss a video from me. If you enjoyed this video, you can always, follow me on all social media platforms at FF Ultra for more fantasy content. And I think that's going to do it. Again, thank you so much for watching. Remember, people come and go, but fantasy championships are forever. I will see you in the next video.